Hi, everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Courageous Communication. I'm your host, Jessica Harrison, and I'm so happy that you're going to tune in live or potentially watch this broadcast as a replay. I want to take this time to remind you to go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And please remember to share our broadcast as it helps us capture a larger following and share more information to more people. Today, my guest Jaime understands the need and passion and desire to share a message that feels time sensitive to a broad audience. Um, that truly is in immediate danger. Jaime's son was killed by fentanyl poisoning, and he is here to share his family's story, caution a generation of parents who are in the dark on this prevalence of this issue. Guys, I'm so excited to welcome this gentleman. He has a wealth of knowledge, and everyone needs to hear this, whether you are a parent or a grandparent, if you're just someone who lives in a community where there's children. Please listen up. This is coming to all of our front doors soon. So I'm going to welcome in Jaime now. Hey,
Hi,
how are you?
how are you, Jessica? Thank you
I'm
for having me.
great. Yes, absolutely. So I know I don't want to waste any of our time. So I'm just going to turn it over to you. And I would like you to just kind of share your story and give us kind of some information about how fentanyl poisoning became such a big issue in your family and in your life.
Well, thank you first and foremost so much for inviting me onto your show. I hope that the message that I give today will reach all of your followers. It's truly very important, and it does. I'll preface it by saying that what happened to my family can happen to anybody's family, regardless if you think that you have people who are using drugs within your home or not, recreational drug users. Fentanyl is coming for everybody, and you really need to know about it. First and foremost, my name is Jaime Puerta. I am Colombian American. I am the president of VOID, Victims of Illicit Drugs. I am also a Marine Corps veteran, and I live in the city of Santa Clarita, California. I'm 59 years old. I'm happily married to my wife of now coming up of 4 years of age. And um, we had a really big tragedy happen to us approximately about 2 years ago. And unfortunately, my son Daniel passed away due to fentanyl poisoning. Um, my son's story is not the only story. My son's story is just a one story or one incident upon the thousands upon thousands upon thousands of other children who have lost their lives in the United States due to fentanyl poisoning. So what happened to my son Daniel? Daniel was a very energetic, beautiful young man. I think you can see a picture of him here in the background.
I
Uh,
can see it.
he is my pride and joy. My son Daniel, I noticed that after he had gone through puberty, his mental health declined, and we had him checked out, and we got a diagnosis of ADHD and also a severe depression. And Daniel, um, he was on medication, and but he, after playing a sophomore high school, he played football for his sophomore high school at Saugus High. I noticed that, well, I found out that he started using marijuana, and then that quickly delved into pills. And what I did with my son Daniel is, due to the fact that here in California we have these very, excuse my language, asinine laws. If I wanted to send him to a rehab or something like that, there was no way that I could keep him there unless he wanted to stay there.
Wow.
So I was forced to send him to not a rehab outside of state, but what we call the wilderness therapy
Mhm.
to Utah. And that was the best thing that had ever happened to us, because when he came out of there after 2 months, we felt that we got our kid back. He was jovial again. He was happy. You know, he was really behind in his schoolwork. I took him out of his high school where he was at. He was complaining that there was a lot of kids using drugs there. So I pulled him out and I sent him to um, a charter school where he thrived. and he was able to catch up on all of his high school work. He caught up to his class, and his dream was to graduate on stage in June of 2020, where he would have graduated from high school. Um, but then everything took a really dark turn for us. The pandemic hit on March 15th, where we self-enclosed ourselves in here. We didn't go out. My wife and I, who has some kind of pre-existing conditions, we didn't want to take a chance. Excuse me. We didn't have a lot of information on COVID-19,
Mhm.
so we basically self-isolated.
Okay.
And during that time, Daniel, he kept doing his homework. He looked normal. He thought everything was okay. On March 31st of 2020, he asked me if he could go take Birdie, which is our dog, for a walk. And I said, absolutely, go for it. And he took Birdie for a walk and came back about 10 minutes later. And something very special about that night, we were laughing. He
Mhm.
was up on the second floor of the home, and he found an old disc with pictures of his birthday party when he was like 3 years old. And we were
Oh.
laughing about it. And I told him to come. I was on the first floor, right where I'm sitting right now. This is my
Mhm.
home office, but I walked out to the entrance of the home, and he was laughing. I was laughing. I told him to please come downstairs. That I wanted to hug him. I hugged him. He hugged me back.
Mhm.
Um, and he said to me, he goes, Dad, I'm really sorry for all the things that I put you through. And I
Mm.
said, you know what, Daniel, don't worry about it. You're just a kid, and we all make mistakes. I know I made a lot of mistakes in my youth as well. And you're going to go places. You're just so smart. I
Mm.
mean, you got the world ahead of you. You got your whole life ahead of you, just going places. He was already learning how to code. He had a little Instagram business going on where he was buying and reselling shirts. And we had a wonderful dinner, and it was just a fantastic night. It was just very beautiful. The whole essence of it was just great. He said, good night, Dad. And I said, good night, son. I'll see you tomorrow morning. April 1st, I walked into his bedroom and I saw, um,
Take your time.
thank you. It still haunts me to today. I saw my son, and I've seen death before, and I saw that my son was gone. You
Mhm.
know, um, I called 911 first, and um, they came over here. And then I called up his biological mother, Denise Johnson, who only lives 5 minutes from our home. She and I
Mhm.
have a fantastic relationship, thank God.
Mhm.
And they brought my son down to the first floor, and they did CPR, and they put him on an ambulance. They first took him to Henry Mayo Hospital here in Santa Clarita, and then from there, the doctor said, I need this is out of my realm. I need. I called a specialist from Los Angeles Children's Hospital to come up, and he said usually for a case like this, we would have a helicopter come and pick him up, but because it's the pandemic, there's absolutely no traffic on the freeways. Los Angeles is always in gridlock. So, uh,
Mhm.
but they got there really quick. They picked them up and they took them down to Los Angeles Children's Hospital. And myself and Denise went down there. And later that evening, a team of doctors came in and they explained to us um, that Daniel was in a very deep coma, that he had lost all of his brain function. The only
Mm.
part of his brain that continued working was the very primitive function of our brains was in, which is that of breathing. But even that, he needed help.
Mm.
So they intubated him, and you know, and they just basically told us that there was nothing that they could do for him. That
Mm.
all they could do was keep him comfortable, and then whenever we decided to terminate all life-saving measures or all the technology that was keeping him alive, that we could stop that whenever we wanted to. And so um, that first night I came back home and I told my wife what was happening, and obviously she was devastated. And uh, she had a really special connection to Daniel, and um, I went back to the hospital the next day, and then his mom was still there. She never left his side. And on April the 5th, she and I had a long conversation, and um, we decided that this wasn't the type of life that we wanted for our son, and that it was best to terminate all the life-saving measures that were taking place. So on April the 6th at 3:45 in the afternoon, uh, they came in and they discontinued everything, and she was in bed with him, stroking his hair,
Oh.
and I was holding his hand when sorry, 1 minute. He took his last breath at 5:08 in the afternoon, and he died. A perfectly healthy 16-year-old boy who was about to be 17. He would have been 17 years old on April the 25th. So he died short of his 17th birthday. So obviously we're devastated. His mom had asked me when I came back home that first night if I could print pictures of him on our printer, and I printed a bunch of pictures of him. And the reason why we did that is we wanted the medical staff, the nurses, the specialists, the doctors. We wanted everybody to see who our son was in life.
Yeah.
We posted those pictures of him all throughout the bedroom and outside his outside his room door, so they could see who he was. And I just have to say, Los Angeles Children's Hospital was, even though we lost our son, but they're just the most compassionate, loving, professional people that I have ever come across in my life. And even though we suffered the greatest loss that any parent can experience in their lifetime, the staff and the medicals, the doctors, the nurses, I mean, they cried. They were crying with us.
Absolutely.
They were crying with us. And then, so anyways, he passed away. I had found half a pill on top of his dresser that first night when I came home. Half a pill. That was it. It was half a blue pill.
Mm-hmm.
And I took that pill with me to the hospital, thinking that maybe the doctors, I knew it wasn't going to be possible, but as a parent, anything you try anything that you can. And so I took the pill down to the doctors and saying, hey, maybe you can do an analysis on this and reverse the effects. And they, Mr. Puerta, we're sorry, but even if we knew what was in that pill, it's impossible to
Right.
put your son back. It's just not happening. So what they did is they handed that pill over to a detective of Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. They took the pill with them. I can't get into too much details because there's still an investigation going on, but they came back in about a week or 2 weeks later, and they told me, "Oh, sorry, Mr. Puerta, but your son died of an overdose." He got an overdose. So what did he overdose on? And he overdosed on fentanyl. And I said, please explain to me what pharmaceutically grade pill out there in today's market today can take the life of a perfectly healthy 16-and-a-half-year-old boy. And there was like a blank look that came across the detective's face. And I said, yeah, and this wasn't an overdose, sir.
Right.
My son thought, because I later found out what he was trying to take was a blue M30 oxycodone pill.
Okay.
And in all reality, it was a counterfeit pill, either pressed south of the border or here in the United States with any kind of binder. And that's what killed my son. He only consumed half of that pill, and that half pill was what took Daniel's life. And since then, um, I've been on a warpath, if you might say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, tell us a little bit about your war path now that you're kind of on this. I mean, I kind of feel like this life found you. It wasn't a life you went and looked for, right? And so what is part of your passion projects that you're kind of a part of now?
Well, um, very like probably the very first night that my son died, um, or no, or should I say, since the time that the detective came and told me that fentanyl had killed my son, I went on to my computer and I typed in fentanyl into the Google bar, and
Yeah.
story after story after story after story after more stories of deaths across the United States due to fentanyl, all across the United States. And it was taking kids as young as 11 years of age through, 40 years of age. And
Mm,
I didn't understand is that if I was able to type in fentanyl in the search bar and this story after story after story came up of all of these deaths, how come I had never heard of this before? First and foremost. And secondly, why did nobody warn me
right.
about these dangers about the danger of fentanyl? And
Mm-hmm.
then later on, and I'll get to more into detail about that, but I didn't understand how is it that this was happening in the greatest nation on earth and we didn't know about it.
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean, we're in the information age, right? We can get anything that we need, we can find an answer to. We can ask Siri, we can pop it into Google, but yet so many of us are in the dark on this fentanyl situation that is, I mean, an epidemic. Is that what we would call this?
I would say it is beyond an epidemic. What most people don't know is that I know I'm jumping a little bit forward, but right
Oh,
now, fentanyl, the lifespan of every single man, woman, and child in the United States between the ages of 18 and 45 years of age has actually decreased. And that's the first time that's happened since World War II. The lifespan of every single man, woman, and child in the United States has actually decreased in the United States. Fentanyl right now is killing more people than COVID-19 in that age bracket. It's killing more people than COVID-19, cancer, suicide, gun violence, and car accidents combined. And yet, we don't have a national crisis type of awareness campaigns from the government talking to everybody about fentanyl. You go to any county, you go to any state in the union, and they'll tell you how many people have died due to COVID-19. They'll tell you their sex, they'll tell you their age, they'll tell you their race, they'll tell you what strain of COVID they died from. But
mhm.
yet you do not have that information on fentanyl, which is a disgrace because more kids are going to pass away. I was just reading this story right here, and I think I showed to you before a middle schooler out of North Las Vegas just died. That just came out in the news too from fentanyl poisoning. The thing was is that when my son first died, and I found other parents um, who were going through the same thing as I was, I made it a point to meet with them, and because I'm the kind of guy that I just can't. Um, I couldn't just lay down and not do anything about this.
Yeah.
It's a curse in me. It's that Marine Corps training in me that still follows me to this day,
Yeah.
where I'm not going to lay down and not do anything about this. So I got together with a bunch of parents on October the 29th of 2020. We went to Columbus, Ohio. There was like 27 other bereaved parents and advocacy groups there, and Michael Gray, who's the founder of the Actus Foundation. His daughter died, I believe, in 2017 due to fentanyl poisoning.
Wow.
He's a great friend of mine. He was able to get the director of the ONDCP at that time, the Honorable Jim Carroll, to come and speak with us and to talk to us about this fentanyl problem. But even he knows a lot more now, but even then when we met with him, because due to the stigma of addiction and overdose, most people, when you hear that somebody or someone's child died of fentanyl, they said, well, it's just another overdose, or, this is what happens when you go the wrong way and start taking drugs. But what people don't understand is that, we have a generation of children who were brought up with medications like Ritalin, Xanax, Prozac, Adderall, and and I'm not saying that they should not be, if they need to be medicated, so be it. My son needed to be medicated because of his severe depression and ADHD. I get that. But what's happening here is that, these kids, what they're taking is not what they believe they're taking. They're being deceived to death. I think I jumped a little bit over what I was trying to get at. But anyways, yeah, I'll get back on topic now. So we had this meeting with all of these people. I decided to join others and we started a foundation. I really didn't like how that foundation was working out. So I left it and I started Void, Victims of Illicit Drugs. You can find us at www.stopthevoid.org. I'm the president of it, and we have Amy Neville, who's on there, who serves as our vice president, Steve Filson, who's our secretary and treasurer, and Chris Didier, who's a board member from Rockland, California. All of us have lost our children to fentanyl poisoning. And our sole purpose is to bring education and awareness to the masses of the dangers of fentanyl. First and foremost, if you think that this cannot happen to your family, I'm very, very sorry. You're very sorely mistaken, because this can happen to your family.
Is that correct? Stopthevoid.org?
That's correct. www.stopthevoid.org. We started this foundation and we were featured in a documentary that you will find on our website. It's called Dead on Arrival. And that documentary is 21 minutes long. And the reason why our beautiful director, Dominic Cherno, the way he did it was so that we could capture the attention of not only children and parents. If it goes longer than 21 minutes, you lose everybody's attention. But it talks about the fentanyl problem in our nation and how it happened to us and what us as parents are going through. And it really explains to the children that unless you receive a prescription that comes out of a pill bottle that was prescribed to you by your primary treating physician, do not take anything, because it can take your life, and it will take your life. So we started this organization, Stop the Void. We were invited to be a part of this documentary. And we did the documentary, and just recently we signed a memorandum of understanding and agreement with the Drug Enforcement Agency, the DEA. We're very proud of that. They're using our documentary as well to raise awareness, and we've been invited to go to various states to show our documentary at high schools and at parents' conferences, so that we can educate the masses about this fentanyl problem that we have right now. Anyways, but going back a little, one of the first things that we had really recognized was that law enforcement was not taking these cases seriously. So myself and other parents that were with me in Los Angeles County, we decided to start touring we have 6 counties in Southern California, and we decided to set up meetings with them, and we all went there with our 8x10 pictures of our children. They were gracious. The county sheriff sat down with us with their chiefs of staffs, their narcotics commanders, the people who are in charge of the narco teams, their homicide teams. I have nothing but great words for Sheriff Don Barnes of Orange County, Sheriff Alex Villanueva of Los Angeles County, who he has become a partner with us. They have our video on their website as well. Orange County does as well. Chad Bianco out of Riverside. Anyways, once we sat down with all 6 county sheriffs and explained to them with the pictures of our dead children who our children were in life, it like changed something, like a light bulb went off on their head and they automatically understood, or maybe not automatically, but it really changed the conversation around from overdose to fentanyl poisoning, because
Right.
these children were not trying to consume fentanyl on purpose, right?
Mm-hmm. That makes so much sense.
We're in the middle of a pandemic. Children are supposed to be socializing with other children. Mom and dad are at work. Children are at home studying. They're behind their computer screens 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a day. Okay. Because the teachers are not back at work yet. So the kids have to work from home. They get bored. They want to either self-medicate, or they're at that age that they want to experiment with drugs. They're bored out of their gourds. They want to do something different. They go onto social media platforms like Snapchat, where it's very easy to connect with the drug dealer. Excuse me.
Absolutely.
Order a pill or cocaine or marijuana or anything you want. The DEA just came out with an emoji chart of what, and these kids know how to use the emojis.
Mm-hmm.
They can go on to DEA.gov, and there's they have a campaign right now called One Pill Can Kill.
Mm-hmm.
And they have this whole campaign where the DEA broke the code of these emojis of how these kids are ordering up drugs, and these drugs are being delivered to their door while both parents at their home. I'll call Snapchat actually Drug Hub. I mean, I don't see any other use for that. I'm sure there are young adults who they love to connect with through Snapchat and the filters. They call themselves a camera company. I don't understand that. But anyways, Bill Bodner, the special agent in charge of the Los Angeles DEA office in Orange County, he himself said it, 4 to 5 out of 10 pills that they interdict or seize are all lethal. And these are counterfeit pills that are being pressed either south of the border by the cartels or here in the United States with binder and fentanyl, made to look exactly like Xanax, Percocet, OxyContin, or an oxycodone, or college students who love taking Adderall so they can stay up all night studying. They take these pills thinking that they're taking a pharmaceutically grade pill, when in reality, what they're counterfeit pills made of fentanyl. And if it doesn't kill them the first get-go, excuse me, they become addicted to it immediately, because these pills are 50 to 100 times stronger than both morphine and heroin. So 3.5 hours to 4 hours after consuming the first time, your body and mind are already craving for it again. Amy Neville, who's the vice president, she has her own foundation as well. It's called the Alexander Neville Opioid Outreach Foundation. She's out of Orange County. She's also the vice president of VOID, of Victims of Illicit Drugs. Her 14-year-old son, Alex, died due to fentanyl poisoning. He's a knucklehead 14-year-old kid, skateboarder out of Aliso Viejo, wanting to experiment with drugs. And she knew that he was going to experiment with drugs. On a Sunday evening, he walks down the stairs and tells Mom and Dad, "Mom, Dad, I got to talk to you guys." He had that wonderful relationship with his parents where he was able to tell them, "I started taking these pills a week ago, and they have a hold on me. I need help. I need help."
In 1 week.
In 1 week.
I think that's so important to hear that. 1 week.
1 week. According to Amy, his mom, she told me that Alex had done this whole, and he saw or sought out what the effects of oxycodone were and
Okay.
what it did for you. And he was willing to take it. And he reached out and he started taking these pills. But what his body and mind were experimenting was not what his research had told him was going to happen to him. So he
Mhm.
walked and he told his mom and dad, Amy and Aaron, he walked down to his parents and said, Mom, Dad, I have a problem with these pills. I started taking them a week ago. She told him, I'm going to get you into rehab then. He said, fine. That Sunday night, she tried calling somebody. They couldn't take him in that day. They said to expect a call from them next morning at 8 o'clock. She told Alex, I'm going to get you in somewhere tomorrow. Please don't take anything else. Next morning, she walked into her son's room and he was dead.
Mm. Oh my goodness.
And he was dead. He was dead just like that. He was dead. He was gone. So that's what I'm saying is that, this is an epidemic, and this is killing more children. The most impacted segment of society right now are children between the ages of 11 through of 18 years of age. Obviously, there are people in all age brackets that are dying due to fentanyl. We had 4 comedians out of Venice Beach. 2 or 3 months ago. 3 of them died when they ingested cocaine. Recreational drugs like cocaine. You should not be dying from cocaine. Unless you have comorbidities where you're, you have heart problems or you have heart disease and you consume too much of it. I suppose you might be able to die due to a heart attack or something like that. But these are 4 comedians at a party in Venice Beach, California, and they die, except for one. One survived.
Wow.
I mean, it's nuts. It's crazy. And they didn't know there was fentanyl in their cocaine.
Right.
They didn't know there was fentanyl in their cocaine. Why would anybody put fentanyl in cocaine? Because they want to get you addicted. They want to get you addicted a lot quicker, and they want you to get the biggest high possible from it. But all it takes is 2 milligrams of fentanyl to take your life. And I'm not talking about the fentanyl that is used for people who need it, that it's used in a hospital setting or that is prescribed to them by very specialized doctors. We know of the fentanyl patches that are given to people through their medical doctors. We also know of end-stage cancer treatments. When people are going to pass away, they want to make the patient feel a lot more comfortable so they don't feel that much pain. 3rd-degree burns, horrific accidents or traumas to body parts, whatever. They give you fentanyl in the hospitals. The fentanyl that I'm talking about is a fentanyl that is made with Chinese precursors. The fentanyl is being made by the Mexican cartels, okay? And they're being shipped into the United States, and they're coming through the southern border, but not only through the southern border. I mean, a lot of times, and I'm conservative, but I don't like that language when you conflate immigration with the southern border. Fentanyl does not need immigration to make fentanyl a problem. Fentanyl in and of itself is a deadly problem. It's a deadly crisis. And we have over 349 points of interest into the United States. I mean, it's coming into the mail system. It's coming into the ports of Los Angeles. I'm sure it's going into the ports in Texas. It's going into New York. It's going through the international packaging system in New York City. I mean, it's flooding the United States right now. The United States right now is flooded in fentanyl. Thank God, and I'm not going to just thank ourselves because we're just a very small part of it, but there's thousands upon thousands of advocates out there who have become advocates because they themselves have lost their children, who are trying to do everything in their power that they can to avoid the masses. But for some reason, we get this knee-jerk reaction again, where people don't want to hear about it because of the stigma of addiction and drug deaths. They just think that this could never, ever happen to my kid. This will never happen to my child. But oh my God, if you guys only knew. I have a wonderful friend. Well, he became a friend. He's a gentleman from Northern California. I'm sure he wouldn't mind me using his name. His name is Walter Langhammer. He lost his 14-year-old daughter last year. or was it, yeah, or late last year, 14 years old, never consumed any drugs whatsoever. Never had consumed any drugs. The first time she consumes a pill and she dies. I can talk to you about Cami Velsi's son, who had a toothache, Emilio Velsi, who had a toothache. And some guy at his work who turned out to be a drug dealer says, "Hey, I got something that'll knock that pain out." So he buys a pill. Turned out to be, I believe, was a counterfeit Percocet, and he died. And he wasn't a drug user. He was a kid, 18 years old, who was training to be, wanted to go and become one of like those special EMTs for the Coast Guard, a diver, and that's what he was training for. He was a sportsman. He loved basketball. He was into sports. He was into everything. He wasn't even a drug user.
Mhm.
Somebody gave him a counterfeit Percocet, and this kid died. So
Yeah.
this is happening across the nation, and most people don't understand that. And I'm telling you that, what's even scarier is that all it takes is this.
Yeah.
And this is in the hands of every single teen in the United States, practically. As
Yeah.
soon as they're 12, 13, 14 years old, that's the first thing they ask for mom and dad is a phone, and they're all smartphones.
Mhm.
All of the information on here, especially apps like Snapchat, where drug dealers abound. They abound there. It's very easy to get your drugs from your phone.
So, what information could you give parents to help them in this fight against like monitoring this, managing it in some way? Um, we kind of talk about courageous communication. I think probably something starts with having some real conversations with your kids, right? And informing yourself and then informing them. But I just kind of want you to give us some pointers as to how to have that conversation and what to do with it.
Well, I've been at war or like with Snapchat. Myself and Amy Neville, we've already staged 2 protests at their headquarters. I was on with Kate Snow from the Today Show and Dateline NBC. Had me on before our protest. They had Amy on too. And I don't say this, by the way, from a place of ego, because there's no place for ego in this fight. The reason why I tell you these things is because we've done everything that we can to get out there through mass media to be able to, bring awareness to parents throughout the nation of the dangers of fentanyl that's in their same communities. And as far as your question goes of what I would tell parents, you go, well, look, you're the ones who are paying for the phone.
Mhm.
I mean, if you are paying for the phone, first and foremost, I would make sure that their phones are registered to your iCloud accounts.
There you
That
go.
way, if you need to go into your iCloud account, you can see what they're doing. Snapchat's target market are children between the ages of 13 to 17 years of age. And
Mhm.
according to Snapchat, these children have a right to privacy. All children have a right to privacy. Dr. Sam Chapman and Dr. Laura Berman, who she's a very famous sex therapist here in the state of California, especially in Southern California. They lost their son, Sammy, last year. And that was a big case. They've been on a Dr. Phil show and everything like that. The reason why I'm talking about them is because there's right now, I believe with Debbie Wasserman Schultz, there's a bill that is going through, or I don't know if they presented it or not yet, but it's
Is
called
that the one out of Cedar Park in Texas where he bought a pill for $10?
No,
Okay.
Dr. Laura Berman and Sam Chapman, they're from here from Southern California,
Okay.
Santa Monica. Unfortunately, the district attorney here, who's a very far left progressive, I'm sorry to bring politics into it, but they don't want to prosecute the case. But that's a whole we could do another show on that alone. We won't today. They've come up with legislation, a law that would allow parents to monitor what their children are doing on social media apps like Snapchat.
Okay.
From what I understand, there's an app called Bark
I
that
have heard of that.
you, and I don't know if it works like Life 360. There's free apps like Life 360 that where you Life 360 is an app that you can put on your phone, and then you can connect your children's phone to your app Life 360. uh, Basically what Life 360 though does, it tells you if your kids have been speeding in the car. It tells you their geographical location of where they're at. I did it with my son, and my son said, "Well, you're like spying on me." I'm not spying on you. I just want to keep you safe, And if you
Mhm.
ever get in trouble, or I'll know where you're at. That's it. And he goes, "Oh, okay, Dad, that's no problem then."
Right.
And then they forget about it. But
Mhm.
Bark is different from what I understand, because it not only shows the parents of who your children are communicating with, but also with who. Now, Snapchat says that they're coming out with their own app for parents to see who their children are communicating with.
Mhm.
No, yeah, but it just doesn't give them the name of the person or something like that. It doesn't. Oh, no, no, no. I'm sorry. I'll go back. It gives the name of the person who your child is communicating with, but it will not give you the context of the conversations,
Okay.
which is crazy to me.
Right.
Because Snapchat is not only facilitating the sale of drugs through their app, but we also have grown men, okay, reaching out to teens. Well, not only grown men, I mean, we just got pedophiles all over the place. I'll just say it like that. And they're sending pictures of their private parts to young 13, 14, 15-year-old girls. And now they have this mapping system where they can see, you don't even have to be their friend. They can tell, I guess there's like little blue dots everywhere, and that tells you who a Snap user is. And they can tell you where you're at. Not only where you're at, the precise room of where you're at. So there's a
Wow.
lot of dangers that abound on Snapchat. If I were a parent and my son were still alive today, I would tell him, I'll buy this phone for you on a couple of set conditions. One, you're not gonna put this on your iCloud. We're gonna connect it to my iCloud account. One.
Mhm.
Two, you're not allowed to have Snapchat on there.
Okay.
Period. You're
Mhm.
not allowed to have Snapchat on there. And three, you need to show me your phone once a week. I want to see who you've been talking to, what you've been talking about. And if you don't like it, then get a job and get your own phone.
So what I'm hearing is boundaries, right? And that's all important things. So, okay, very good. I
Well,
like that.
as parents, we've become a little bit lax and maybe a little bit over trusting, and we would love to trust our children, believe me.
Mhm.
But unfortunately, our children, their minds don't fully, you're a psychologist. You know this very well. I'm preaching to the choir. Their
Mhm.
brains don't fully develop until they're 26 years of age.
Right.
Their frontal lobe, their decision making, it's not all there yet. So
That's true.
so that's why you really have to be on top of this, and you have to make sure of what your kids are doing at all times. And they also must know, you know, and I've said it, I don't know if it happens in Texas or not, but I think you and I were talking about this as well at these parties. They call them Skittles parties, where you walk into the door and there's a fish bowl or a punch bowl or something like that. And there's a bunch of pills in there of all different colors. That's why they call them Skittles parties, where the child is supposed to reach in and grab a pill and consume it, not even knowing what the hell it is. Gee, I mean, you have to talk to your children. I tell parents this, and I don't condone drug use. I
Mhm.
certainly don't condone my son wanting to self-medicate, but he certainly did not deserve to die for it,
Right.
right? And unfortunately, it's not like back in my day. You know, I'm a product. I'm a product of the '70s and '80s when I graduated out of high school. When you smoked a joint, the THC level wasn't that high. You went to Jack in the Box. You got a double jumbo, a large order of fries, a chocolate milkshake. You ate that. You went to sleep. Next day, perfectly fine. Today, in today's day and age, you cannot consume drugs. Period. We are understanding now that they're putting fentanyl in vape pens.
Mm.
We have heard that they're spraying fentanyl onto marijuana. I've heard very conflicting information about that. I myself am not an expert on it. I'm if I don't know if where you're at, if they have dispensaries, but if you have the kids who are smoking marijuana or something like that, or you're over the age of 18 or 21 and you're do not buy the marijuana from the black market. Make sure that you buy it from a licensed dispensary. That way, you know that the product that you're buying is safe to consume. But if at all, you really have to make sure that these children know that never, ever, 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 ever take a pill that was not prescribed to you. Never, ever, ever accept the pill from a third party, either your friend, best friend at a party, or put your hand in a jar to get a pill out. Do not consume it because you're playing Russian roulette with a loaded gun. Period. And that is the strongest message. And if parents really want to understand what's happening, I would encourage everybody to go onto our website and please look at the Dead on Arrival documentary. That's 21 minutes long. Watch
Worth
it.
the watch. It's worth the watch. Every
Yes.
minute of it.
We've been told, not because we're in it, but we've been told by other the DEA loves it. Like I told you, we signed a memorandum of agreement with the Drug Enforcement Agency. We've shared our documentary with them. They're using it now in high schools to bring awareness. Our documentary is being used in drug prevention conferences as well. It was very painful to do. I can tell you that. I was like in bed 2 weeks after doing that. Because it's just really, really, it drains me. It really drained me. And it's not easy to talk about this subject on a daily basis, but the reason why I do it and so many thousands of other advocates do it is because we don't want other parents to have to suffer the same loss that we have.
Right.
Because like I said before, the private sector and the public sector, we need a massive, massive ad campaign in the United States bigger than COVID-19. Right? I mean, COVID-19, like I said before, what age, what race, what sex, what county, what city they were in, what kind of COVID or strain of COVID did they die from. And we all know that we need to mask up. How many times did they told us to mask up, wash our hands, sterilize your hands? We need an awareness campaign from the federal government, the state and local governments as well, and the private sector to talk about the scourge of fentanyl, because that's the only thing that we're going to be able to do to save lives and to make people aware of the dangers of fentanyl. Nothing else is going to work. We are not going to arrest our problem out of this. We can have the strictest laws. We can actually have death penalties against people who are selling these drugs. I myself personally wouldn't mind having that because I'm an aggrieved parent. But I know that that's not going to bring my son back.
Yeah.
I know that's not going to bring my Daniel back. So again, education and awareness, and education awareness, just radical education and awareness. And again, talk to your kids, have those very frank discussions with them. You have to. And oh, mom, oh, dad, no. You're going to sit down with me for the next 15 to 20 minutes, and you're going to bring up your laptop, and you're going to type in fentanyl, and you're going to sit down with them, and you're going to show them the documentary, and then you're going to show them of all the kids who have died in your counties because of it they didn't know of. And I'm sure right now that the death is so prevalent across the nation, I'm sure that your children will at least know of someone in their communities who has died of fentanyl. I'm sure of it. I'm sure that you yourself could stand in the middle of the road and throw a rock in any direction, and you will hit somebody who has either been directly or indirectly affected by somebody or from someone who has died of fentanyl poisoning. That's how prevalent it is in the United States. So
speaking of that, I don't think you've given us the rundown of the numbers. You would kind of talk to me about like April 19 to April 20 and kind of different things like that. I'd love for you to share that information with our audience because it is overwhelming, but it's the facts.
Between April of 2019 and April 2020, there were 93. This is according to the CDC. There were 93,300 drug deaths in the United States. 70% of those drug deaths were due to fentanyl. Between April 20 and April 2021, there was 103,405 drug deaths in the United States, according to the CDC. I think the final numbers for 2021 came out. There were 108,000 drug deaths in the
Mm,
United States. And the majority of these drug deaths are all due to fentanyl,
mm,
which is crazy, you know?
yeah.
So I don't know what we're going to do, but as long as we can talk to our kids and tell them not to take these pills, I mean, we might be able to save a life, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, even if we got every single drug dealer off of the streets right now, there's still, this country is awash in fentanyl,
Yeah.
awash in it. I mean, the DEA alone and Border Patrol, should I say, down in our southern border,
Mhm.
has seized enough fentanyl to kill every single man, woman, and child in the United States 7 times over.
Yes, I've been watching that. That's mind-boggling.
Yeah, exactly.
Talk to me about, and I may have this completely wrong, but not even the fact that you have to ingest it can make you sick, just even touching it, correct? Is there something about that? This is just things I've read, and so please help me and set me straight with that.
I think if I'm not an expert on that. I
Mhm.
just know the ingestion of it, whether it be oral um, or people who are in the substance use community who smoke it. They put it on top of a tin foil and smoke it, put a lighter underneath it and smoke it with the tube. Um, I believe if it gets into your mucous membranes or if it gets into a cut of some kind or open sores or open wounds of some kind, I'm sure that it would probably knock you out. But as far as touching it alone, I think law enforcement, when they interdict or seize these pills, they're always using gloves for protection, and because they want to, and they're wearing masks as well,
Wow.
because they want to make sure that the contact doesn't kill them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Whew, this is just a heavy topic. And but I do think it's a needed topic. It's things that we need to hear. It's kind of like what I told you. This is not necessarily a comfortable topic. No one wants to hear that this could happen to them, that this, because we don't want to believe that, any of our children could, want to reach out and get even a drug. That's not my kid. But I want to talk about the fact that our kids are living two different lives. There's their reality that they're living in day to day, and then there's their virtual life. And so, can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Social media, we thought technology was going to make our lives much, much better. To a certain extent, it has. But as far as social skills go, I just think it's deteriorated. Uh, uh, it's done more harm than good. That's why uh, both Congress and the Senate have had Mark Zuckerberg and all the other social media giants or CEOs up on the Hill talking about what their apps have done. I mean, if you talk about the harms that these social media apps, I mean, just look at the numbers or the statistics for young women between the ages of 11 and 18 years of age since the pandemic broke out of self-harm. I mean, self-harm and suicide in young women between the ages of 11 and 18 has jumped 54%. 54%. You have kids on their phones, glued to their phones every waking moment of the day, seeing who is doing what, who has new tennis shoes, who's going out with who's fat, who's skinny, who's playing sports, who got into college, who didn't get into college. And so there is no real dynamic, or should I say they don't know how to distinguish what is true and what is not true, what is right and what is not right. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? And
Absolutely. They're comparing their real life to someone else's highlight reel or what someone wants to put out there, right? So I talk about the highlight reel versus my real life. And so it can make me compare that, and my comparison might not look as good. So then my viewpoint turns very negative on myself really quickly.
of course, absolutely. And not only that, but you also have, you know, you have our children who, again, do not have that front global part being able to make right decisions, wanting to emulate, people in who are rappers, or who glorify, you know drugs, or
Mhm.
girls, into sexual behaviors of all kinds. And it's just, it's insidious. I mean, I just, I don't know. I'm 59 years old. I'm going to be 60 years old this May 3rd. And I can tell you without a doubt that I really truly feel bad for all teenagers in today's day and age, because they have it much they're having a hell of a lot more of a difficult time than I was when I was a kid,
Yeah.
if that makes any sense. And yet we have all of these technological advances that have really, in my own point of view, and it's not a professional point of view, because I'm not a doctor, I'm not a
Mhm.
psychologist, I'm not a social scientist of any kind. I'm just a parent who sees what's happening to our society and what's happening to our children, and it's wrong. It's just wrong. I mean, we have to ground these kids in reality. You really have to ground your children in reality and separate the real from the fantasy. Now we have the metaverse, where, if I'm not mistaken, 2 weeks ago, then so the metaverse is a, what do you call that? It's a virtual world that
Yes.
you yourself build.
Mhm.
The first rape on the metaverse already happened.
Mm. I did not know that.
Yeah, look it up. Where, we're just, what do you call the emoji? Not an emoji. What do you call that? Your
Avatar, maybe?
Thank you. Yes,
Yes.
your
Okay.
avatar. I
Mhm.
mean, I know I'm going down a wrong bunny hole here, but there was
No.
like an avatar, a male avatar adult who raped a female avatar.
Mm.
And I don't even know how how the hell that whole thing plays, because there are no rules
Right.
of who meets who. So, how, again, the thinking process of a young child, where do you distinguish
Yeah.
the real from the fantasy?
Yeah, because all of that is starting to intersect, and it's becoming embedded and enmeshed. And what is maybe, I wouldn't say appropriate online, but maybe what we're emboldened to do online has now started to seep into reality a bit. And the things that, and all of that is getting very cloudy. And there is that generation that there was some separate part. Like for me, Facebook was available whenever I was in college, and that at that point it was still only available to people who had a college email address. And then it started to change, and everything. And I say all the time, I'm so glad that it hadn't picked up steam while I was completely in that stage, because who no one had taught us that it's not okay to post everything. It's not okay that potential employers will look and see these things. We were kind of like the guinea pigs, you know? And so
Oh my God! I'm just thinking to myself, if Facebook was around back when I was a kid, I mean, and that's the other thing children don't understand, that whatever they post online is there forever,
forever.
ever and ever and ever.
Mhm.
They will never be able to get that off of there. You know what I mean? So, I
Absolutely.
mean, the consequences of that alone,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
are I don't know, it's insurmountable. I'm just so glad that when oh my God, I could tell you right now, me and my friends, we would be in so much trouble.
Right. And it's so true, and there was no training wheels, there was nothing. All of a sudden, they just said, "Oh, like the Facebook, whatever," and there we all were signing up, and no one told us anything different. And there had been the MySpace thing, but that was quite different than
Yeah.
Facebook. And so it was kind of like training wheels to all of a sudden dirt bikes. That doesn't work. And so I'm just so grateful that we kind of had somewhere God was really watching over me and was telling me, this is not something you want to do.
I think the landscape is very different now, and
Absolutely.
it's an important one to the first and foremost, it's the landscape that we have to acknowledge exists. And what I'm
Mhm.
talking about is that parents must understand that this is totally different than what they had when they were growing up. That they
Absolutely.
have to understand the consequences of what is out there online right now, because the dangers abound. I
Mhm.
mean, pedophiles, the drug traffickers, uh, you know, parents really need to, for lack of better words, have that very heart to heart conversation with their children. If they love their children, if they value their children, if they don't want to see any harm coming to their children, life in and of itself can be very difficult at times. And we all go through our ups and downs, and we all have to go through daily lives, and we already have a plate full. I mean, you know, inflation is through the roof, gas prices are going through, everything is more expensive today. Then on top of that, we have to fear what our children are doing online. Well, you should fear that.
Right.
You should really truly fear that.
Mhm.
I mean, how many parents can raise their hands up and say that they spend 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a day with their kids?
Mhm.
How many?
Well, I
If
mean,
you're
that's exactly always what the studies have shown, that your kids spend more time with their teacher typically than they spend, once they start going to school, than they spend with their actual parent.
and who are their teachers? Let's
Exactly.
not
You
even
you
go
know,
down
you
that road.
Yeah,
I
exactly,
don't
but
even
there
want to talk
there is some
about
truth in that, just being involved when we talk about that is just be involved, be an active participant in what your kids are involved in because, I always talk to parents about if your kids are playing video games, you should probably go upstairs and play with them so you know what it is that they're intaking. If
I
your kids are on the phone, if they're using certain apps, you should probably get on those apps and see what it is. And so I just think that it's really important to drive home a message of if your kid is using it and you're not curious and you're not doing your due diligence, you have no idea what that can be used for because anything in our society can be used for good or for harm.
correct.
And there's a tiny little fine line for all of those things.
I would go to Daniel's room, and because Daniel was an avid video game player, what teenage kid isn't?
Right. Hmm.
He had a PS4, he had these games, and I wouldn't let him have some of the other ones. Oh, what was that? I forgot the name of it. I didn't let him have it. He got really mad at me for it. It's the one about where you steal cars, kill
Oh,
people.
okay.
I didn't let him have that one, but I'd let him
Hmm.
have some of the war ones, and I would lay in bed and just watch him.
Right.
And even that, because I'm not good with this, I'm too left
Right.
thumbs, just don't have it in me. But I'd
Hmm.
sit there and watch with him, and I would laugh with him, and you know, I would try to connect with him in every single level that I could, and
Hmm.
try to find things that you can connect with your child with. Because
Right.
when you think about it, you know, your children spend more time with outside influences than they do with you.
Yeah.
Think about that. Their influences are the music that they're listening to. Their
Yes.
influences are what they're seeing on their apps. Their influences are what their teachers are telling them, you know. And mom and dad are out at work all day, come home and they're tired. They come home and they're tired, and if lucky, they get a home cooked meal. I mean, you know
Mhm.
what I mean? And I'm not trying to be critical of moms or dads. I'm not. I understand. I still feel like I'm a parent today, even though my
Right.
Daniel was my only son. You know, but what I'm trying to say is that you have to try to find something where you and your child can connect
Hmm.
on a one-to-one basis. And not only that, really, truly, you know, uh, if they have Snapchat, get rid of, if you're paying for that phone, get rid of that app.
Hmm.
I'm telling you, it's the most nefarious app out there. I wouldn't let
Yeah.
them. If I knew about Snapchat back, I would not. If I knew what I know now, I wouldn't even let them have that app. There's no way in hell. That's like giving a kid a loaded gun. Really,
Mm,
it really is. I equate it to giving them a loaded gun
mm,
and not knowing how to use it.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't want families to have to suffer the same misfortune or you know, this massive loss. He was my only son. I he was supposed to graduate in June of 2020. I didn't get to see him graduate on stage. I won't get to see him go to college. So I doubt he would have either become a software engineer because he loved coding, or
Mhm.
he would have become a businessman.
Okay.
I will never see that happen. I'll never
Mhm.
become a grandfather,
Mhm.
you know.
Right.
Now what we do is we're going to go celebrate his second birthday here at my home, and he would have been 19 years old. His friends will come over here and and celebrate it the best we can. But it's horrible, and I don't want other parents to have to go through the same thing that I'm going through. So please, again, go to our website, www.stopthevoid.org. Watch our documentary. um, and I hate to ask this, but if you could donate to $5 or $10, whatever you can, we would truly appreciate that as well. You know, I'm very, I'm very fortunate that um, I'm not a millionaire by any way, shape, or
Mhm.
form. I have my own business, and my wife takes care of it mostly, and my admin. So it gives me a full time being able to do what I do. But I'm on planes. I'm going to other cities. I'm with the documentary, and all of that costs money. I self fund. So, but anything that you guys can help out with, we would truly appreciate it as well. And if you want us to go to your schools, Jessica, if you want me to go to your high school or junior high school, I'll jump in a plane. I'll go down there and I'll show it, and I'll talk to parents. I'll talk to school officials. I'll talk to anybody. I'll talk to your congressperson. I'll talk to your senators. I'll talk to anybody who will listen to me.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to stop until I can't do it anymore. And I think that the only day that I cannot do it anymore is the day that I'll pass on and I'll go be with my son.
Mhm.
It's something that I kind of look forward to too as well. But
Right.
not that I'm going to go away right now, because I still got a lot to do. But
Mhm. Yeah,
any,
absolutely.
anything that I can help out with, please reach me. You could
Absolutely.
you can find me also at I'll just write. You have my email. You can put it on there too.
Okay. I'll put it in the comments.
Yeah, I'll put it in right now.
Okay, wonderful.
Or do they see that as well?
I haven't oh, you're putting it in the comments? Yes, they'll see it. They'll see it. Perfect.
That's my email.
Mhm.
If parents want to talk to me, please email me. I always try to find the time. I want to thank you for being so persistent.
Yes,
Have you
I
always
am
been
persistent.
have you always been that persistent? Just
Yes.
so your audience knows, she stalked me. I'm kidding.
I did. I did. I actually saw you giving an interview on Fox News.
Right.
And whenever I heard that, I also heard, is it
Amy,
Neville? Yes.
Amy.
Them on the channel and different things. And I've just been taking pictures of everyone on there, and I'll just reach out to people, and God has been good. I just say a little prayer before, and then I say, I hope they will answer me and not think I'm a little bit kooky. But
No, I have to say, Jessica, this has been a great pleasure for me. I will be on your show anytime you want me
oh,
to.
thank you.
If you want me to, I'll drag Amy to you. You won't have to stalk her. I'll just say you got to do Jessica's podcast.
Yes, please do. I want this to be something that's on repeat, so people are hearing it and hearing it from different perspectives, because everyone has a different pressure point who's been in this, right? Your pressure point may be Snapchat. Someone else's pressure point may be something else. And so I just think it's really important, because it's going to hit everyone differently,
Right.
and I just, because for some parents, social media is not that big a deal, and Snapchat is fine, and so for them that might not be be their pressure point, but the next person that comes on may connect with them in a different way. And I just think it's so important to hear things over and over again. And that's really why I reached out. Like I told you, I'd kind of started getting the bug a few years ago. And ever since then, it's just been something that's been on my heart. I really, really enjoy working with those adolescents, and I really fear for them, because these are things I can't imagine trying to be a young adult in this type of environment. And I hear people say, and I've seen kind of people say things like, the kids didn't change, we have to just continue to treat them the same. And I'm like, no, the kids didn't change, but the environment changed. And if
That's
you are oblivious to the fact that the environment has changed, you don't have any business dealing with the children right now, because you have to understand that it is not the same.
It is absolutely not the same. And to think that way is you're just fooling yourself. You really
Right.
are.
And
I
it's
could,
that's that head in the sand, right?
yeah, exactly. I could introduce you to thousands upon thousands of parents that they have suffered the same fate as I have.
Mhm.
And um and I said it, and I even say it in the diary. I wish somebody had sat me down, and told me what was going on and what's up, because
Mm.
maybe there would have been something different. Um, all I know is that my son guides me, my God guides me every day. He's with us every day. I miss him terribly, terribly. I mean, look at this kid.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Mhm. Good looking. Good looking kid.
Oh boy, he was something else.
Mhm.
You know,
Mm.
16 years old. He had more friends that were girls than boys.
Mm.
They would go to him
Shocking.
for boyfriend. Go to him for boyfriend advice.
Yeah.
His mom's a psychologist.
Mhm.
He
Yeah.
was very smart. He was great at math. Unfortunately, what happened. But if we could stop this from happening elsewhere, uh, let's do it. And hopefully, if somebody in your audience will listen to this too, maybe they have contacts as well, that with some powerful people that might be able to get this national campaign off of the ground, because it's the only way we're going to slow these deaths down. Otherwise, they're going to continue happening.
Yeah. Yes, that's so true. Well, I believe my state senator is actually a ER doctor. And so that is someone who I want to reach out to and have some conversations with about this topic, because I think it's really important and it's really um, timely. And I don't know that everyone understands it to the extent that we need to, including me. And so just more information, right? And we have to be willing to hear the information and the facts. And sometimes that's hard, and sometimes it's hard to stop all the life we're living and slow down enough just to um, be involved in something bigger than us. And so I just appreciate you allowing me to do that today, and allowing to bring this message to really who is rural Texas mostly. And it's a lot of parents. It's going to be a lot of people who are not sure of this, maybe have never even heard of this, or if they have heard of it, do not believe it can come to their area, because it is, safe, and everyone works together, and we have this small community, and this could never happen here, but it can. It can happen, and we just need to be aware and have those conversations. So I just appreciate you coming on, and I hope you will come back, and I hope you do give me all the contacts too, because I want to interview other people and have them on, because this is a topic that needs to be discussed.
I have a local girl. Her name is Stephanie Hellstrom.
Hmm.
She lost her son. She's from Texas, so I think Dallas Fort Worth area. I
Hmm.
think she's out in the rural area though.
Hmm.
Stephanie Hellstrom. I can put you in contact with her. She's a wonderful person, a very wonderful young mother. I just love her to death. She's doing all that she can for her community as well. Your governor, Governor Abbott, has been wonderful as well in talking about the problem. I just that sometimes think that, again, we don't need to conflate immigration with fentanyl. Fentanyl does not need immigration to make it a problem. And again, it's not only coming through the southern border or through Texas or through Arizona. This is coming in through all ports of entry into the United States. But unfortunately, sometimes they try to make it political. I myself am conservative, but I don't conflate the two because I think that it does more harm than good.
Yeah.
This isn't a left problem. This isn't a right problem. This is a red, white, and blue problem. This is
Yes.
killing kids of all socioeconomic status. It doesn't matter if you're a Republican, a Democrat, a liberal, a socialist, a communist. It doesn't matter what color skin you are. It doesn't matter how much money your family makes. This is taking people of all stripes and economic status, which is truly, truly mind-boggling. But anyways, thank
Yeah.
you so much for having me on.
Thank you so much for visiting with us, and we'll have you back for sure. So thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and let you out of here. I'm going to wrap up and then we'll visit afterwards. Thank
You're
you
welcome.
again.
You take care. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Guys, this was an amazing conversation. I'm so glad that we got to have it. I know that you guys are doing your part and sharing it on your social media, so I appreciate that. Again, we'll see you next week. We have another interesting topic to discuss, so I'm really excited to bring you some of these difficult topics and have some really good conversations. So you guys have a great Sunday evening, and we'll see you next week.